Okay, so I had a post the other day on Instagram where I talked about kind of a hidden sway back posture and what that means to me. So, what I think of is somebody who has a lot of compression in this upper chest area and a lot of compression in the posterior pelvis, but they don't really look excessively sway back because they tend to elevate through that kind of mid thoracic area. So their ribs are kind of flared forward. This is still down and the head is forward, and the pelvis is still compressed and shoved forward. So today I'm going to show you a 4-step process for sort of working through some of this compression. So the first exercise is going to help us to get this upper part of our pump handle lifted so we can get some expansion in those first 2 ribs and near our collarbones. The second exercise is going to compress the bottom part of the ribs to allow for the expansion in that mid thoracic region. Both of these are going to be facilitated with a constraint that makes it just a little bit more passive so we can work on just the expansion portion without having to really work on getting the abs and trying to push that pressure somewhere. It's going to kind of allow it to just naturally happen. Then we're going to get into a position that opens up the back side of the pelvis. So we're going to have a lot of length back here and allows our sit bones to kind of open up. So when we take our inhales, we get nice expansion through here. We're going to be inverted, which is going to help keep this upper part of the chest lifted a little bit more and get these lower ribs back at the same time. And then finally, we're going to integrate it into a wall squat position where we get down in a small squat without the glutes being facilitated, without tucking under, and use a foam roller to help cue us to lift through the upper sternum area or the manubrium. So, first exercise we're going to jump right into is going to be a hook line position on the floor. So, I'm going to go ahead and push this back so you can see me here. And I want you to grab a towel roll and take the towel roll, and you could probably roll it up maybe 3 or 4 times. So I kind of have a little sandwich there. And what I'm going to do is put that right behind my shoulders. It's going to be just a little bit lower than that. So if you imagine, here's my manubrium, and I create a line straight through my body, I want this to rest on the other side. So I'm going to place that on my mat first. And then I'm going to situate my body in the right position so that this is elevating my upper chest. So in this position, you're going to take an inhale through your nose and guide those lower ribs that want to flare down and back towards the ground. You're going to keep that positioning there using some abdominal tension, and then inhale and imagine the pressure going up into the upper chest. If you have a lot of compression there, you may feel like your head is sort of tilting way back. If it's too much of a stretch for you, add another towel roll under your head to help out. But if you feel okay here, actually allowing your chin to lift and kind of promote that upper cervical curvature can be extremely helpful. So we're going to inhale, exhale, all of the air out, get those ribs down, hold that position, inhale, exhale, feel those deep abdominals kick on. Keep a little bit of tension as you inhale into the upper chest. Exhale all the air out. When you inhale, make sure your tongue is suctioned to the top of your mouth. Exhale. One more inhale with me. And exhale it out. So once you feel like you've gotten control of the lower ribs, You can absolutely just take your arms out to the side and allow those shoulder blades to come back and kind of relax down. Okay, for the second exercise, this is called a sucker punch, and we're going to use a yoga block. If this feels too hard around your rib cage, you can absolutely use like a squishy ball or a pillow over the yoga block, something that you can compress those lower ribs with. So I'm going to take the block and I'm going to put it on the bottom of my rib cage, and I'm just going to let my body kind of fold over. So now I have this compression in the front. So when I take an inhale, all the pressure is going into that kind of T8 to T12 area that we tend to hinge from. I'm going to inhale into my back, looking slightly forward so I have a nice curve in my neck. And then exhale, let myself sink around the block and just absorb into it. I'm going to hold that position, take an inhale. You might even feel a nice release in the pelvic floor as the air pushes down because it can't go out the belly. And then exhale, sigh it all out. Inhale. Exhale, sigh it out and melt around the block. Keep the sternum up slightly. Inhale. Exhale, melt around the block. One more inhale. And exhale it out. So before you go on to the next two positions, I would recommend doing another 10 breaths in each one of those passive positions. Okay, you can pause the video and do those now, or you can go ahead and join me and jump right into it and go back to and do the whole series again. So I'm going to prop my knees up on the block. And you can use 2 blocks if it feels more comfortable for you. And this is going to position me into an inversion. So now my hips are higher than my head, which is going to allow pressure to push down into the thorax a little easier. So I'm going to exhale and drive my ribs back. But what I don't want to do in this position is tuck and round too much. I want to keep my sit bones lifted even though my ribs are back. So when I inhale, the pressure is going to go into the posterior pelvic floor, and I'm going to get a good release there. So I'm going to push away from the floor, and that's going to help lift my upper sternum. And I'm going to take an inhale and imagine pushing my sit bones apart. And then I'm going to exhale, draw those ribs back, get a nice deep abdominal contraction. Take an inhale. Keep the sit bones lifted, ribs back, pushing away from the floor and looking forward. Exhale. And you can contract the pelvic floor here. And what you'll notice is the anterior pelvic floor should feel a little bit more of a sense of contraction. If you don't feel that, make sure you're not over tucking and keep those sit bones lifted. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, ribs come back, contract from the bottom up. Inhale through the nose. Feel the length in the pelvic floor. Exhale. One more time, inhale. And exhale. All the air out. Okay, so I would recommend doing that for about 5 to 10 breaths, and you can split it up however you want, and repeat that for a total amount of 20 breaths. So that can be 5, 5, 5, and 5, or 10 and 10, whatever works best for you. Okay, the last exercise, we're going to integrate everything together. So I'm going to grab my foam roller. And I want you to place the foam roller about midway across your scaps, or kind of at the bottom to midway, so that when you roll down, you are in a small squat, but the foam roller is across the exact same place that the towel roll was. So right if I drew a line from the upper part of my sternum straight through to the wall, that's where the foam roller would be. I'm letting my knees go forward. What I don't want you to do is tuck under at the hips and squeeze the butt. The sit bone should stay wide, like flashing lights pointing down towards the floor. I'm going to relax my arms and use the roller to help elevate this top part of the sternum. I'm going to go ahead and take an inhale. On the exhale, the key component of this is getting the ribs back and down. As you do that, if you do a good job of it and the sit bones are still lifted, your glutes could be on fire. I'm going to inhale, keeping the ribs down into this upper chest. And then exhale, the ribs coming back in space. My glutes are really working hard in that lengthened position. And then inhale into the upper chest. Imagine hinging over the foam roller slightly. Exhale. Ribs come way back in space. Nice deep abdominal contraction without tucking, keeping those sit bones nice and wide. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do one more together. Inhale through the nose. And exhale. Rib cage comes back. So, depending on how hard that was for you in terms of the lower body, you can split that up even into 3 breaths at a time. But again, I recommend doing 20 total breaths and then just see how you feel when you stand up. Hopefully, we've reduced some of this compression in the back. We've reduced some of the compression in the posterior pelvis, and we've got our sternum nice and lifted, so we have a nice tall posture without compensation. So I really hope this was helpful. Thank you for checking it out.